Well, you see, and I was going to guarantee we were going to kick this off, and either me or Mike would be in the middle of a sentence when it actually kicked off. Folks, welcome to Talking Crit. I would tell you who your normal hosts are, but fuck it, you already know. And I got the F-bomb out of the way, so you just know what to expect for the rest of the episode. Don't expect necessarily, I don't know, PG-13. No, we'll probably pass that. You can say fuck once. I just said it.
Do we have a lot of new listeners or something? Is this for the benefit of the new listener in the house, or okay?
Well, because we have Jim Wampler with us, so we may have some people that don't expect a lot of cursing. Jim is cleaner than my mouth, that's for sure.
Yeah, but not in real life. I'll be constantly tempted if you guys start out.
Well, tonight's show may be an F-bomb dropping show because it's going to be some crazy stuff tonight. We actually have things to talk about tonight. Now, most of the time, Eric and I are just on a hex crawl where we just kind of wander and meander around, or we'll be like last week when basically Douglas Coles just basically grabbed the steering wheel away from us and said, "I'm driving where I want to go," and dazzled us all with his knowledge of Kickstarters and stuff. But this week we actually have kind of news in the RPG world to talk about, so I'm excited. We're actually going to be able to have a subject or two to talk about.
Yeah, and
I love being too busy to follow the news. So you were telling me the news a few days ago, and I had to go look most of it up.
Well, and here's the thing. Now, and I'm not gonna. By the way, a call out to the audience. Supposedly, Zach tried to sue somebody else in the RPG sphere of influence. Pretty well-known person. I'm not going to mention them because I can't confirm. I can't find anything on the suit. But if you know about any other lawsuits besides the one that Zach Smith has against Gen Con and Peter Atkinson within the United States, within the state of Washington, I'd love to find court documents on it because I can't. So I don't know. Just throwing that one out there. Somebody told me about it yesterday. And
Zach has been suing people overseas because the burden of proof for defamation is so much. If you ever want to be happy to live in America, land of the free, home of the brave, and we actually have real free speech. A lot of these countries, unfortunately, like New Zealand, Australia, Canada, don't actually have free speech. You can really come up against it by saying, I could say Eric Tenkar is a piece of shit in the United States, and he can't do anything. But if I say Eric Tenkar is a piece of shit in Canada, he might have recourse because he's not actually a human piece of shit.
I've always heard England is tougher than on that kind of thing. You can sue for libel and slander much easier.
Yeah, so they don't really have good and that's makes sense because Canada and New Zealand and Australia kind of branch out in terms of they follow British common law, and it's actually much easier to sue for defamation. And we're getting ahead of ourselves here. The reason we're talking about defamation and suing and all those fun things is because we had some interesting news this week, which Eric Tenkar will summarize for us here.
Well, I'm going to do the quick summary here. Zach Smith sued Gen Con, Peter Atkinson, and then Peter and Peter's wife. And my understanding is that he's suing all these entities because, well, maybe Gen Con could go bankrupt and declare bankrupt protection, but individuals maybe not. But it's defamation, interference with business expectancy, violation of the Washington Consumer Protection Act, and a few other things thrown into that. But the most interesting one to me is interference with business expectancy, which I believe, from my understanding, has a lower bar in Washington State than any of these other charges he's suing for. So,
and for the for those of you who haven't who have done your sanity a favor and not paid attention to this story, Zach Smith is a RPG creator. Talented artist, once was a porn star. Whoa.
What?
I'm sorry. I dropped something on my foot and it hurt.
I thought Thanos had blipped you out
This
for
is
a
not.
second.
This is not a professional podcast. People.
Not
That
by
hurt.
a
That hurt.
long shot.
That
Not by a
hurt.
long shot.
Anyway, so and I was going to say he's written a book called "I Did Porn," which I actually read. So I'm probably one of the only humans alive that actually read that book on a bet from Zach Glazer. F you, Zach Glazer. And he's created some very very interesting RPGs. Vornheim, Blue Medusa.
I think Vornheim is shit. That's personally my opinion.
Doesn't like Vornheim.
Blue Medusa
He did win a lot of awards.
Blue Medusa is very good. Red and Pleasant Land is amazing. Vornheim, whatever.
Well, just because somebody is a problematic character doesn't mean their work's bad. So yeah, I mean he's won awards.
So he's known online for being somewhat of a bully, somewhat of a stalker type person. He doesn't like people to disagree with him. He's like the kind of guy. He's your best friend as long as you're agreeing with him. People that work with him say he's a great dude, and then the minute they disagree with him, boom, it all goes to shit, and they have a horror, and then things go horrible. So he kind of has been cruising along in the game world. He had a podcast, Hit It With My Axe, which he featured all female porn stars playing RPG stuff. So he's always kind of had this little edgy demeanor to him. And he's an artist in real life too. Critically acclaimed. I'm not a big fan of his artwork personally, but what do I know? But he is known. He has a girlfriend named Mandy who was in porn with him and also starred in a lot of his live streams, a lot of his podcasts. And in the last couple of years, last 2 years, she has left him and accused him of abuse. So we're not going to get into all the juicy details because that's neither here nor there. But he became persona non grata in the gaming industry almost immediately. His name was actually removed from the credits of the 5e rule set, which shows you that. To be honest, they removed all of the consultants' names. Right. And the excuse was, well, they weren't really supposed to be there in the first place. So that's when they're removing somebody for a reason, but they're smart enough not to state what the reason is because of things. RPG Pundit was in there too, right? And he was kind of a persona non grata in the industry. So they removed a lot of names. So everybody's kind of trying to wipe him off the slate. Raggy and Lamentations of the Flame Princess stopped printing his stuff.
There's a reason why. Now, the reason why James Raggy had to publicly disassociate himself from Zach was because Zach was, I'm trying to think the proper phrase here. He was, scrubbed from the roles at Drive-Thru RPG. They would not sell any of his products. If his name was attached to something, it was not going to be sold. So if James wanted to continue selling at Drive-Thru, he basically had to, say, I'm not going to do any future work with Zach, and I'm not going to reprint any of Zach's work, and yada, yada, yada. So, but I came after the Gen Con announcement.
Right. So basically everybody in the industry is making, because one of the problems with Zach is he doesn't have a lot of friends in the industry. He's widely known as a POS in the industry. And so people, when it came time for everybody to stab him in the back, everybody gladly looked the other way and let everybody stab him in the back, because he wasn't the kind of person you really, that most people are friendly with or that care if anything bad happened to him. So he has vociferously defended his honor and said that these are false charges, and has been suing right and left people mostly from out of the United States for defamation of character. For instance, if somebody says something that you actually cannot prove in a country like Australia, New Zealand, Canada, you have grounds to sue them, and you could actually win, as Zach has won a case.
So our goal here this evening is to get one of those letters.
Definitely.
We're the United States. He can't. The bar is so much higher in the United States. Now, we're going to come to back to that in just a second. The bar is much higher in the United States because we actually have, like I said, we have real free speech. You're allowed to call people bad names and pretty much get away with it without having to prove it. Other countries are not so lenient. And so he sued a online, I don't know, a streamer named Etten a while back. I believe once he was also on RPG side. He also did stuff there, but he was actually forced to issue an apology, and I think he had to cut Zach a check too at the end of it.
I don't know if he actually won in court or if this was a negotiated settlement.
I think it was probably negotiated. Yeah,
but and I read the apology, and it was painful.
Well, there's actually a YouTube video of it if you ever want to see it. And
really?
literally it's this. I am blah, blah, blah. I am so sorry I said those things about Zach. I will never do that again. I love Zach. That's what it was. The guy was
And before you stop watching, be sure and leave a like.
But he was absolutely doing it without, he did not want to be reading that. It was not done except for the letter of the law says you have to read this on YouTube or whatever. So which brings us to the events of this week when Zach has announced he is going to sue Peter Atkinson and Gen Con, not because he was quote unquote banned from Gen Con, which,
right.
He's been a few times. Actually, I have my copy of Blue Medusa signed by Zach because I had a friend that was going to be there the year that Zach was there, and he got Zach to sign it. So he does attend Gen Con occasionally. He's banned from there, which, okay, you can ban people. That's right. Not an issue. But what happened was, and this happens to a lot of these cases, is that Peter Atkinson, who basically owns Gen Con, thought it would be great. I don't know, points with the audience to get thumbs up from the audience to actually issue a personal attack on Zach at the same time.
I have it in front of me.
Yeah, why don't you read that?
At Gen Con, we have a policy of not disclosing the names of individuals who have been sanctioned or banned from our events. However, and this is when somebody basically pulled their pants down and did the full Monty. However, our statements regarding a recent ban have caused confusion. I don't know what confusion it caused, and more importantly, made people feel that Gen Con doesn't care about attendee safety. To clarify, I want to state that Zach S. has been banned from Gen Con and that we flat out don't tolerate harassers or abusers in our community or at our conventions. But then he had to follow it up. In response to somebody's comments, there was due process. That's why it took us so long to come around. There were many people abused by Zach. The evidence was overwhelming. I don't need a court proceeding to uninvite an abuser from my party. And I think therein was going to lie the whole lawsuit is pretty much in statements like that. But I'm not a lawyer.
No offense to Peter Atkinson, but that's one of my pet peeves, even though I'm guilty of it myself, is when somebody tells you exactly what they're about to do by telling you they're not going to do it. Not to be an asshole, and then they proceed to be.
Yeah, you'd be okay if you just stopped right there. Just stop. It's our policy not to talk about people we ban, and so I'm going to leave it at that, and we're going to move ahead. And I hate this word. I hate the word virtue signaling, but this is a classic case of virtue signaling. I think.
Yeah.
I think he wanted to say, okay, not only am I doing the right thing, I'm going to tell you why I'm doing the right thing, and I'm going to be a badass about it at the same time, and say, hey, I'm going to call this guy right out and say he's his abuser. And dang it, all the lawyers in the audience were probably cringing when they saw that. Like, oh, no, Peter, no, don't, no. That's an unforced error. Don't do that.
Well, here's the thing. A couple of years ago, remember Zach had what was that? He interrupted the Ennies with that whole Zach Smith created D&D or some shit like that, or Save D&D. So he interrupted the Ennies. He interrupted the Ennies with this whole big stunt, a shock jock style stunt. So I'm sure that Peter was it's like fingers on the button. Like, wait a second, I can let these missiles off. I can do this. I can fucking ban him. I can fucking. This I can ban him for. Holy shit, I can ban him. I think it was.
Well, there's a whole thing that you didn't get into, is that there is a lot of accusations that he basically gamed the Ennies. A few years ago, he won pretty much every Ennie for anything that he Lamentations and Zach won. Just like swept the category of every Ennie, best writer, best art, best book. This is the year Blue Medusa won. And then there was whispers that he figured out a way to game the Ennies, which you can game the Ennies if you know what you're doing, especially if you have a loyal enough audience and you get them to vote exactly how if you tell them exactly how to vote and vote this way, and you all do this, you can block vote your way into the Ennies. And he pretty much figured out how to do it. And so I think
baseball All-Star, Major League Baseball All-Star. Everybody get your Gillette Scantrons, like when I was a kid. Grab 75 of them, fill them out in the afternoon.
Yeah, pop them all at one time. Yes. Related story, which means absolutely nothing. It's just a related story for my mind. Loyal fans for the Texas Rangers got Toby Hara in at third base as the first Texas Ranger ever All-Star player in about 1977 by picking up gigantic stacks. They belonged to a union. These were union members. They got these gigantic stacks of ballots. They brought them to their place of business unions. They had a puncher. And they were punching thousands at a time. And they would do that every night. They would ask for the Texas Ranger staff, give us as many all-star ballots as you can. And they punched Toby Hara. And so that's why, if you ever see it, I think it's 1977 or 78, Toby Hara, third baseman of the Texas Rangers, made it to the All-Star game because they gamed the system. They figured out a way to game the system. Well, metaphorically, that's what Zach did. He got union members to hole punch thousands of ballots metaphorically, and that's
right.
But not to say that Blue Medusa is not a great product. It's a very good product. But I think Peter was still stinging from that because there were a lot of accusations around that, and I think this is just his way of letting off steam. But dang it, you gotta have a better. You just gotta think. You got to think before you say things like that, because especially with somebody like Zach, who's not going to let that kind of thing just, sit there and percolate.
That was surely within the limits of human foilability. I mean, if you act up enough in a bar, the bouncer throws you out.
Right. But a good bouncer also knows that if you're going to have to land any blows, the body blows, you don't punch somebody in the nose and break the nose.
You punch from the kidneys,
yeah. You punch in the kidneys. You punch him in the shoulders. In the back, in the sides. But you don't go for the headshot, because although it is effective, and though it takes that motherfucker down, you're gonna get arrested for that, because the guy's gonna have this bloody nose, and you can't really hide that. Whereas body blows can hurt, and they don't really show. So you could have just unnamed him. You ban him. You unnamed him. And you heard him where it hurts, because like as Zach goes on,
that's easy to say now. That's easy for you to say or me to say now.
Oh yeah,
you definitely
because that situation wasn't like a giant thing stepping on my last nerve in the middle of running a $1 million convention.
It was Zach. Zach. Here, I'm going to preface this just in case. My personal opinion from personal interactions with Zach, especially on the days with Google+. Zach is a 4-letter word that begins with a C, and I cannot use. But if Rachel's in this room, I would bring her over so she could say it. But he is somebody who gets under your skin and knows how to do it. He plays you. He is not just a thorn. He is that shiv that somebody sticks right into your shoulder blades, and then walks off as the innocent angel, saying, "I didn't do it." So I understand. I understand.
Well, for years there's been accusations of harassment, and it was never Zach that did it. It was his minions. It was always his minions.
Yep.
That they would jump on these. Google Plus was especially egregious in this endeavor, is that someone on Google Plus would disagree with Zach, and immediately they'd just be absolutely hammered and dogpiled by people that were his minions. And he would stand back and look innocent, and meanwhile person would just be getting doxxed, would be getting just hammered, and bad mouthed everywhere, and to the point where a lot of them they said they left the industry. They quit publishing games or quit doing anything because they said the harassment was so horrible. Now, one of the issues with that is because they got harassed on Twitter. Well, if you're not on Twitter, I guess you were okay.
Yeah, I wasn't on Twitter.
If you're on Twitter, or if if you weren't on Google Plus a lot, you're probably fine. Well, I guess Eric was fine because I know he had. What I thought was funny, Eric. I noticed. So this week, Eric published his Tenkar's Tavern blog about this, and Zach thought it was. I guess Zach cares about you enough to actually reply twice to different people's queries on your Tenkar's Tavern. He knows what a pal you are, and
he knows what people read, and that's and listen, Zach, his way of handling stuff. People like myself and Greg Christopher, we used to go head to head with Zach back in the early days of Google Plus, and Greg was the Pope of the OSR. That was a dismissive comment toward Greg, because Greg was talking morality with the art and Lamentations, amongst other things. And I was just that fucking cop. Dismissive terms to be dismissive. But when he couldn't win an argument with us, he blocked us. So then we couldn't participate in arguments anymore, because Zach does not like losing or even not winning. He doesn't like a draw. A draw is not good enough. So, but my personal opinion of Zach is he's an asshole. He's a piece of shit who happens to be very skillful and at the RPG material that he creates when he's not phoning it in. When he's focused and when he's on his game. He's one of the best. He's still a miserable person. Again, my opinion, and Zach knows my opinion, so if he's listening, nothing I said is going to be a surprise. So fuck it. I don't care. And I don't live in the state of Washington. So, and again, that's where I think that something that comes into play here is that the bar in Washington state for interfering with the business expectancy, which I think in other states is often called like tortious interference. Tortuous interference is lower in Washington than in other locations. Now, I can say what I want about Zach right now because he's making no money in the industry, so he has no money to lose from me saying anything. But when Gen Con banned him and Peter made the public statement that I'm banning you because you are a piece of shit and I believe all the accusations that are against you. Well, unless Peter can come out and say these statements I made are truthful, the whole libel type of is secondary to you. By your statements, Zach lost his access to Drive-Thru RPG. He lost his ability to market himself at Gen Con. Therefore, you impacted him monetarily.
None of that had anything to do with just being a giant asshole and dick to everyone he ever interacted with over a period of years.
Mm-hmm. Right.
It's Peter Atkinson's fault.
Well, that's the listen. Like Mike was saying, there's a reason why he chooses certain venues for his legal actions, and why he was suing people overseas. He's got a suit against Mandy in Canada.
In Canada, yeah, it's in Canada. That was a mistake for her to move to Canada, by the way. She should have stayed in the U.S. She opened herself up for that. Yeah.
But Gen Con, although Gen Con happens in Indianapolis, it's an LLC that is headquartered in Washington State.
Yep.
So Zach had two places he could go for the lawsuit. He could have sued in California or Washington State. And he sued in Washington State. Why? Because the laws, in this case, skew in his favor. And the bar he has to reach isn't as hard as it would have been in another venue.
It's going to be delicious. It's so delicious. I love stuff like this. Because it's just, it's
hard for me because it just doesn't intersect with my world. And I grant you, I'm not a normal or average person. But when I see somebody like, I have no interest in watching Kevin Spacey movies now based on what I know about him. I just don't, and it doesn't matter. It's not the end of my world to be missing Kevin Spacey movies. I was never in Zach's demographic. Although I recognize the artistic merit of some things like A Red and Pleasant Land. I mean, it's good work, but I met him years ago at a convention, saw how he behaved, and just stayed the hell away from him. And don't buy his books.
Yeah, well, I don't think you can buy. I don't think you can anymore, can you? I mean,
and I'm sure on the secondary market they are expensive as all hell.
You can go to Amazon and buy I Did Porn by Zach Smith, which Zach Glazer did for me. And
the rest of it doesn't matter. I mean, he's got as much free speech as anybody else. He wants to sue Gen Con. Well, that's his right. Who cares?
Yeah, that's the thing. It all goes back to the thing that everybody says, and it's always true, is that you're not. Look, you have free speech in America. You can say stuff about people. It doesn't, but you're not affecting anybody. I mean, you can say all the bad things you want about Zach. I can still go buy Zach stuff. Nobody is preventing me at gunpoint from doing anything. And that's the whole thing. Is even when you quote unquote ban things, they're still available. And as long as they're available, for at least for me, I don't see the damage a lot of times in saying, look, you can't attend our convention or our store is not going to carry your books. Look, if your store doesn't carry your books, I'll go to Amazon. Amazon has your books. I mean, and so I don't find those people are, when they say cancel culture, they're canceled. Usually they're not really canceled. There's ways to.
That's a whole misnomer now anyway. I mean, if I suddenly, went public with a bunch of bizarre stuff on social media and my book sales dropped, whose fault is that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I have to blame
Flat Earth, Jim Flat Earth Wampler comes out, and then we're like, "Whoa, hold on a second."
It could be a good source book, so let's not piss poor it.
I'd still buy your stuff anyway, Jim. So it doesn't matter.
I mean, it's similar in that as human beings, as evolved primates, we believe what we want to believe that keeps our little house of cards together. So yeah, I'm not even, but it's a point. I'm not going to get into discussion with a flat earther. I know. We used math and science to put a robot on Mars, the 6th or 7th one last week. You can't do that. Or was that
in the studio in Hollywood, Jim? Come on now, think about it.
Not in Hollywood. That would be too easy.
John Miller says if Atkinson makes statements about Zach in a separate. Okay, first of all, we're not lawyers, nor do we play one on TV. But I mean, so we're going to be speculating. But that's what we like to do, speculate. So John says if Atkinson made statements about Zach in a separate post and labeled them as his personal opinion, would he have not been in legal jeopardy? What's the line between freedom of speech and libel speech? I guess that's what lawyers are there to figure out, because we don't know, and I don't know. And
all I know is what I learned from J. Jonah Jameson: libel is spoken. The other one's in print.
Yeah.
Well, again, part of the issue here
slander's in print, libel spoken.
Gen Con, the policy is we don't name anybody. We're telling you right now, our policy is we don't name people that we've banned. That is our policy, and we don't stray from it unless I've decided I'm making an exception, in which case I'm going to fucking stray from it and say Zach Smith did it in the foyer with the candlestick, and there you go. I mean, again,
it's absolutely unforced error. He did not have to say that. And like I said, I don't necessarily like the term virtue signaling, but that was virtue signaling. That was like, I'm going to get on the good side of people by saying that I don't just ban Zach. I personally think he's this, and this. But you're attached to Gen Con, so it's not really your personal. At that point, it's not necessarily your personal. I mean, look, there's been cases where people have worked for. Let's say I work for the New York Times, and I get on my personal Twitter and I say, something about how much I love Nazis. Well, New York Times fires me, and I say, wait a second, I've got free speech here. I was saying this on my own personal Twitter, but you're an employee of New York Times. Well,
freedom of expression has nothing to do with consequences you face.
So Peter Atkinson, even though he is a private individual, he made these statements as I run Gen Con and I'm going to ban you, but I also think this about you. At the same time, it wasn't like it was two different speeches separated by 3 weeks or anything. It was at the same time he's saying one thing, he's saying the other. I think that's where the problem comes. That's just me taking a spit take, though. I don't know.
So here's the comment that I made on my blog that Zach responded to. I said, Zach knows there is little love between us, and my personal opinion of Zach is well known and stated above. I hope the truth comes out, whatever that might entail. I doubt Peter's lawyers will want this to go to discovery. I expect the truth in the end will likely be elusive. I bet there will be a settlement unless Zach really wants to go to Discovery. Which prompted Zach to respond.
What's that German word for enjoying the suffering of others? I can never pronounce it.
Schadenfreude.
Is that what? Help me understand. Is that what this is about? Because I could not care less about Zach suing Gen Con, as opposed to Margaret Weiss and Tracy over their getting their IP back so they can still write books. You know, I had a dog in that hunt because I like those people and I want them to succeed. Mm-hmm. I wanted them to, be able to write more books.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
If it's Schadenfreude. The thing is
it King Kong versus Godzilla here? I mean, is it two creatures beating each other up, and do we care really?
There's a bit of that. There's certainly a lot of that. And listen, Zach is a large enough. These are two people whose personalities, each one has an ego that can probably fill a small office building on their own, and they've come together. It's like two sumo wrestlers. And in the end, only one can remain standing.
And I'm not everybody. So if it's a TMZ King Kong versus Godzilla fight, and we just want to get out the popcorn, that's fair enough.
That's basically it.
I'm popping that pop. Well, for those and don't know the history of Peter Atkinson, there was very credible accusations in the early aughts, and which turned out to actually turn into a lawsuit. He was sued by several people that he worked with for sexual harassment, which he admitted. He did. He admitted he paid him off, but he's also. I don't think I'm speaking out of turn because this has appeared in a lot of stuff, but he and his wife, I think, are swingers. I mean, we don't kink shame here. If that's your thing, go for it. But
only if it's Ken Whitman. And
he was back when he first bought TS. They had parties out in the wilds of Washington State where all the employees were invited, and I have talked to people, which I will not share here, but there was some pretty wild things that happened at those parties with Peter and his wife there. So he's not absolutely blameless in this in terms of he's gone through this before. He's been accused of sexual harassment. He's actually paid people to.
When you've been sued, you should know better. But here's Zach's response, which I find interesting. I will 100% make sure the truth is not even slightly elusive by the time all this shit is over. I have no interest in a merely technical win. The truth will come out. Again, like one thing I missed with the Dragonlance lawsuit, because we could all, since it was settled, all right, we knew that when they withdrew the suit, we knew there was a settlement, which means it's sealed. We don't know exactly what the issues were, why Wizards of the Coast was like, oh yeah, we're not canceling the contract, but we're not going to approve any rewrite. So go fuck yourself. We'll never know what actually that entailed. Maybe we can infer it when the books come out, and we can look at the story and say, this is interesting. Maybe this is the issue. But if
it seems pretty obvious, though, don't you think?
What's your take on that, Mr. Wampler? Why don't you give us your take?
My take on it is Wizards of the Coast decided that they were going to take D&D in a different direction that Dragonlance didn't fit in anymore. So they, did the corporate thing and just started stalling and playing for time and doing what they could. Then got called to account for it, and they cut a mutually beneficial deal. Here's your IP back.
That's pretty much what we just figured out too. That we figured. Yeah. So that's that sounds about right. Yeah, because they did the weasel words. We're like, we're not going to cancel you, but we're going to make it so you still can't publish. And yeah, that didn't go over well with the fan. I don't know how much fan pressure had to do with that, honestly, or just the fact that they were shamed publicly. And they want to try to present one image publicly, yet that image was being tarnished by the fact that two of the people who contributed to the huge success of D&D were being treated like crap.
Well,
but yeah, that I think that ended up working out for everybody.
Yeah, but I think in the case of Wizards of the Coast and Hasbro, we've just seen Wizards of the Coast now is its own huge division now at Hasbro. Wizards of the Coast is running the boat. Now they're making announcements. They made announcements today with more actors that are going to be starring in the new D&D movie.
Oh, I know. They cast Hugh Grant as the main villain, and I'm like, oh, how are they going to put makeup on him to be a lich? Oh, they don't have to now.
Oh, there. He's already half dead. But, you don't want the bad publicity. So
I wonder if he could out Jeremy Irons.
Interesting. I don't know. But
yeah, that wasn't going to be. Yeah, that wasn't. Yeah, that they did the only thing they could have done. Yeah, unless they're stupid. I mean, that they could have been stupid and really.
Well, they were stupid in the first place. They were stupid for trying to play a technical game, because technical games rarely win. Because when you take them to court, judges don't like people that or corporations that play games. Playing games is not in your benefit. When they go, oh, so in other words, you were taking this contract in a direction that was never intended, and basically saying, as long as we don't approve something, that that it doesn't move forward, and you're not going to approve anything.
Yes, Your Honor. That's exactly what we're doing.
That seems to defeat the spirit of the contract, if not the letter. And there, you don't bring that stuff in front of a judge and let it go. Because I'll be honest with you, if I was Weiss and Hickman, I probably would have said, you know what, I don't even want a jury trial. I want this going to a judge who's going to see the games that were being played. And then you're like, but we'll never know.
Somebody wised up there. Thank goodness, somebody wised up and said, "This is a no-win game we're playing." We're either going to win by beating that crap out of Weiss and Hickman, or we're going to lose by beating the crap out of Weiss and Hickman. It's a no-win.
People are going to be people. My friend Dave Beatty just went through something. Yeah,
yes.
I don't want to say similar, but a case of a large company deciding they had enough technical rights to take a dump on an indie publisher and did so. But then some pro bono lawyer came out of nowhere, and next thing you know, they settle and they've got money. So end of the day, it wasn't all that bad.
No, and that also is a situation where, in case of the company in question, which I think we could probably name without really blowing up anybody's spot, Chaosium.
Oh, yeah. It's all what I've said is
all
public.
out there. Yeah, it's all out there. Chaosium was getting bad press from this. And I know they say, well, all publicity is good publicity. No, it's not. Not in a hobby this size. Okay? Not when Call of Cthulhu with the new 7th edition is doing very well. If you look at the play stats on Roll20, you look at them on Fantasy Grounds, you're like, oh, wow, Call of Cthulhu is really getting a lot of that. You don't want people going, oh, they're bullying the little guy, they're fucking with the little person. They don't need that.
Yeah. So
in this case, they got to say, well, yeah, we won the battle because we got to, he's not going to use the Dark Trails trademark that we don't technically directly trademark, but similar to a trademark that we have. But we paid him out for his inconvenience because we're good people. That's how they're gonna say it. But the reality is, they were probably afraid that if they did go to court, he has a pro bono lawyer who's helping him. So they'll have to pay their lawyers, and maybe their lawyers were saying, you know what, this could drag out in court, and you probably don't want to pay us what it's going to cost you. Why don't you just find a way to make this go away? And if it costs you a few figures, it's worth it in the long run.
That was my brother and I's old tech startup was all wrapped around patents and licensing IP. So, we had a raft of lawyers we were employing then, and an outcome like Dave got is good news.
Yes. No, definitely. Especially when you are just
and the pro bono lawyer was the key to it all. So that guy's some kind of hero level, because we all know the way it usually goes. It's whoever's got the most money wins.
Not to get off track, but that was always Ken Whitman was always threatening to sue people, because figuring by threatening to sue, you'll back off because you're afraid to be sued. He threatened me numerous times. I always
I feel like I'm on the TMZ channel. You want to stir it up. I mean, that's the reason you can calculate how litigious Gail is going to be by how recently she signed her last deal for money. When she's got the money, she'll come after you.
Yeah, no, definitely. And that's certainly, part of it. And I mean, not naming the people that have threatened me with legal action, Gail being one of them, I think I've been threatened by a half dozen entities. Threatened. Never got a letter, never got an email. Just threatened.
Never convicted.
Right.
Never,
Because
if either of you committed a felony, no. Convicted, no. Never convicted.
No, unless not even arrested for it. But the thing is, the threat of such is always the idea that it's going to make you blink. Now, it was pointed out to me by our in-house counsel, Joe the lawyer who says he's not a lawyer. But in any case, Joe pointed out that the date of the filing, which was this February, just last month, and the date of the incident, February 19th of 2019, means that there's a 2-year statute of limitation on most of these charges, or that he's trying that Zach is trying to sue on. So Zach was apparently, again, we're spitballing here, but apparently Zach was trying to get a settlement, and somebody said, basically, I guess, like, fuck you, I'm not settling. Take me to court, because it was filed basically 2 years to the date of, if he waited longer, he couldn't have filed. Imminent change. Tenkar Speakeasy. Thank you, Greg. The Pope of the OSR has spoken. So, but it's again, the threat is you can't threaten Peter Atkinson. He has deep pockets, so he can say, sue me. Now, who's going to have the deeper pockets? Because let's be honest, American jurisprudence, when it comes to lawsuits, isn't necessarily who has the better case. It's who's got the better lawyer, or who's got the deeper pockets, who can run it longer. The Gygax trademark lawsuit with the old TSR really well. The new TSR with the Gygax magazine. If you read trademark law, you cannot trademark a proper name. You can't. But she did. But who has the deeper pockets? When you've already got both sides spending close to 6 figures, somebody has to say, I could win and still be broke.
Well,
as a participant in that company at the time some of that was going on, I just recused myself from comment.
Oh yeah, no,
Zach is if you read his incredibly great book, I Did Porn, which I've already plugged 3 times on the show tonight.
You keep on. I'm going to start plugging Rob Kinson's book about Dave Arneson. I trudged through that on a bet. Zach, I'm going to sell a copy of that for every copy of Zach's book you sell tonight. Rob Kuntz is.
By the way, Zach.
It would be great if I remember the title, Secret Genius or something. What was the name of that book?
Zach's book, I Am Porn, is the most boring. I couldn't even finish it.
Whatever it costs, it's a bargain, because there are sentences in that book a page and a half long.
So Kuntz is German, right? So there you go. That's why.
Well, I was going to say, Zach is a trust. You find out from that book that Zach's a trust fund baby. So he's made a lot of money from his artwork over the years. So he might have deep pockets. I don't know they're deep as Peter's by any means, but he's not Shlomo. I mean, some poor Shlomo with he's got money. So all this talk about I can't make any money now because Peter Atkinson having Gen Con. That just threw up the lie flag, because who's making money publishing games? Nobody, and he's not. And his books were Vanity Press anyway. They wasn't like they published 8,000 copies of anything. Those are very small print, artsy books.
What are you talking about?
4,000. 4,000 for
4,000. Yeah, I think he's done print runs as large as 10, but and he's also done reprints on some of them.
That's true. A lot of I think Red and Pleasant Land was reprinted 3 or 4 times. But yeah. I know, for instance, Lair of the Blue Medusa was only one print. That's why it's so rare and hard to find. It was a one print for 2,000 or 3,000. I can't remember. It wasn't.
But that wasn't Lamentations though.
No, that's true. It was kind of artsy fartsy. But he has, in other words, his family has money. He's got money. He's never needed to work. He's never had to work, which is why he was in porn. He didn't have to work.
Right.
So he was an art. So I think it's not like I said, he doesn't have Atkinson riches, but he's not destitute either. So he,
right.
And I think, look, just get the popcorn out, kids. It's going to be fun to watch. From a distance, don't get too close because you get splattered with whatever substances get splattered in that meeting of the minds there. But
Guardians of the Galaxy, you should hit this place with a black light.
Oh, jeez.
So that'll be fun. So that was fun this week. We had a great time talking about that. But we had some other fun this week that was interesting. Some of it having to do with Kickstarter. Why don't you tell us about that story, Eric? Because that's another great tale of woe and behind the scenes manipulations and all that fun stuff. Which actually we'll have to set that one up too, because that one's got a long setup.
Well, now. I don't know.
I don't think I know what this one is about.
You'll love this. You'll love this, Jim, because Jim does Kickstarter. By the way, Jim does Kickstarter a lot. Does Jim have any projects coming up Kickstarter anytime soon?
Let's save that for the end.
Okay, we can save it for the end.
That's good news. We can end on good news.
We'll end on a good note. Let's don't sandwich that between two tales of woe. You don't want to tarnish Kickstarter by association.
I like woe.
Okay, so we'll
I deliver on time every Kickstarter. I'll say that.
He does. Great stuff.
No, you've been spot on, man. I've enjoyed your stuff, and I'm kicking myself for missing the first two issues. It's just like, but then like you said, we'll get on to Scientific Barbarian in a bit. I'm trying to find
this our story starts a while back.
What's the latest TMZ.com Kickstarter news you got there?
well,
it starts way back. There's a gentleman named, oh gosh, what's the guy's name? The streamer guy. Gosh, I already forgot his name.
Yeah, I know.
Kevin Rule. Oh God, what's his name? Why did I forget his name? Boy, we're so prepared. This is the kind of professionalism you see every week on our show, Jim. So just to let you know that this is what This
is why I do Say for Half, because we record and edit Say for Half.
Oh no, we don't. I've never edited.
You're way above us. Oh my gosh, that's like that's extremely professional. That Say for Half stuff.
That's why we're on par with Goddamn Attack. We figure that's the bar that we want to hit. We don't want to go beyond that. Because
as long as we surpass GDZ, we're happy. That's how low our bar is, and it's not hard either because it's Zack and Peter. So we could easily overcome that. This is the perfect RPG. Look up perfect RPG. It should say the name of the.
No, because unless it says in the comments. Because here's the thing, the perfect RPG was canceled. And why was it canceled?
Right.
Because an individual that was. All right. Adam, it's Adam something or other. I'm just getting this from.
Yeah, because Luke Crane's the guy that had the thing. Who was the guy? Oh, here it is. I found an article about it. It should say right here. Okay.
So pretend you're a journalist, Eric. What's the headline?
Coble. His name is Coble. Adam Coble. So Adam Coble created the RPG Dungeon World, which it's just a pretty good RPG. I've read it. It's okay.
He spawned so much though.
Holy gosh, he became a streamer, and he would, as most streamers do, he streamed online D&D type games. Well, he was running this game. I can't remember the name of the game, but it was more of a sci-fi type game, and he's streaming this online. So, like most streamers, like all the famous ones up there, he's got his voice actors doing all their things, and so for some crazy reason, this guy decides it'd be a great idea to role play a sexual assault with a female role player who doesn't want to do it.
Oh Jesus!
So he forces her into it. And it was even weird. It was like it was a sci-fi.
So forcing her into it is not role playing anymore.
No.
That's actually assaulting her.
Especially when she was not into it. So, and she actually has, if I remember reading this correctly, she had a male character in the game. The male character was hooked up to what they call an orgasm machine. And do you have those, by the way? Did you stat that out for me for Gamma World, Jim? Next product you have, Orgasm Machine. So anyway,
I will not be doing that for you.
I'll
send you a DVD of Barbarella, but that's about as far as I'm willing to go.
And so this is like so out of nowhere. So her character gets hooked up to this machine without her permission, and her character has an orgasm. So she's also it happens. She's upset. She's like, I can't believe this happened. So she quits. She quits the stream. She's, I quit. Well, then all the other streamers quit in solidarity with her because they said, yeah, that was weird and creepy and whatever. And immediately he goes from, pretty much he's doing okay in streaming to persona non grata.
You're so mad you're maxing out your bandwidth, Mike.
Yeah. He's just absolutely kicked out. He's kicked out. He's basically booted out of the industry. Because of this sexual assault. He apologizes for it, and of course, but he kind of slides to the back of, I'm not going to do streaming anymore. I'm going to, I don't know, go to a desert island somewhere and contemplate the world or whatever. So he's out of the picture for a while because he made this horrible gaffe of basically making somebody role play a sexual assault. And look, we've all played D&D for years. I mean, between all three of us, we have 100 years of D&D behind us or playing.
Easily. Yeah.
Would you ever do anything like that in your wildest imagination? Would you force a player to role play out a sexual situation like assault? No, nobody does that. So that's just, who knows if he was doing it for clicks. We thought it'd be cute to do. God knows why he thought this. So anyway, this happens a while back. So Adam Coble is out of the industry. Cue Eric, and he's going to tell us what happens next.
Well, what happens to start with is that I find this in the zine community over on Facebook. Somebody brings it up and it's like, what happened with this project? It looked interesting because it had numerous people involved in this zine project of, quote, perfect RPGs. Now, it was weird because it's Luke Crane works for Kickstarter. For the longest time, he was their game coordinator, like the game project. He coordinated. Now he's a vice president. Just got promoted a few months ago. He's been known in prior Kickstarters that if you complained about the way he was running it, he canceled your pledge and kicked you off the project. I witnessed it on one of his projects. I was like, this is bizarre. So with this one,
and help me out because I'm not up on every single OSR thing. I know what Dungeon World is. Luke Crane is the guy behind that.
No, that's
Adam
behind.
That's
Luke Crane works
Burning Wheel.
That's Mr. Salacious Role Player, the Assaulter. Okay.
Right. Luke Crane works for Kickstarter, but he's the guy behind the Burning Wheel RPG system.
Which actually
I should know that. I'm just
it's an interesting. It's a good system. I've read that book. The books are very well written. He did a really good job putting that together. Not my cup of tea, but
right.
He did a good job.
Probably from the OSR point of view, you would know Torchbearer, Mouse Guard.
Yeah. I mean, I've got a copy of Burning Wheel. I just lost the name.
So what happened was he listed everybody involved in the project on the Kickstarter pre-release, site. Like the project is not live yet, so he listed everybody, and Adam was not listed as being on the project. And the list of names you can still like. He removed the list of names from the page, and even says redacted to reduce future harassment. But their names are still on the mock-up of the cover and back cover. Has everybody's listed except again for Adam, because Adam was snuck in at launch. So anybody who was working on this project had no idea that Adam was on the project.
Can I ask a question?
Yes,
because this is all new to me, so forgive me.
Yeah.
I'll be a listener. I'll be a viewer. So this is Luke's Kickstarter, and Luke also is an employee of Kickstarter.
Yes, the vice president at Kickstarter.
Okay. No problem there.
No problem whatsoever. And by the way, it was also labeled as one of our, like, how Kickstarter says one of our favorites? This project immediately was one of our favorites.
Of course it was.
I don't know how that happened. It could have been a coincidence.
No, nothing suspicious there. Nothing suspicious.
Nothing suspicious here. So,
by the way, Kickstarter they've known to break their own rules quite a bit.
Yeah, I better shut up on my commenting on this one and just listen before I get my next Kickstarter nailed.
Oh dear.
This is not the Jim Wampler you're looking for. I was just doing my Jedi mind meld trick. In any case, so what happens then is it goes live, and Adam's name is added to the list of creators. And now the list is not alphabetical by first name, and it's not alphabetical by last name, and it's not alphabetical by reverse last name. It's alphabetical by reverse first name. So Adam comes at the very end of the list.
Mm-hmm. Not suspicious at all. I always list alphabetical by first name, letter at the very end. That perfectly logical. Yeah, I understand.
Yes. Mm-hmm. So now
that's why you're bad, Mike, so you can get higher up on the list.
Right, exactly. But I put my name at the bottom for some reason.
Now, just take a side step here. This project was only going to be live for like 3 or 5 days. It was going to be a really short one. And here's the deal. The project was $14 in PDF. And the PDF says the following. Paper copies cost $1.29 each. I want to subtract the exact amount from the PDF cost, but I can only subtract whole dollars. Therefore, I've rounded the cost mathematically because print plus PDF is $15. Okay, not bad, right? However, for the exact same amount for the exact same product, you can also back for $25, or for the exact same one PDF and one copy of the zine, you can pay $42. Why? Because apparently Luke wanted to see how would people pay more to pay the authors more. Because here's another thing. People involved in the project weren't getting paid up front. They were getting paid by a share of the sales. Now, when this project went what's the phrase down south? Tits up. When this project died nobly, all these creators who had done work on it were basically told you're not going to get jack shit because somebody decided to play games with the Kickstarter about games. If that makes any sense.
Which is why you don't work on. You should never work on spec, and that's. I feel so bad for those people because they thought they were going to get a pretty good payday. Because look, Luke Crane is, he's on the inside there, and he was able to list that as a gold pick or whatever, and they're sitting there going, yes, we're going to make some money on this, and then to have everything yanked up because Luke wants his friend, the person who can't, keep his perverted fantasies to himself, on the project and doesn't tell anybody. That's just ridiculous.
Yeah, and it was really a recipe for disaster. And here, I'll be honest with you. I am very disappointed in myself for not finding it on my own earlier, because I would have loved to have been following and gotten the updates that are backers only, because I'm sure they would have been interesting.
Oh my, yes.
Now, there are a lot of comments in the comments to this that were deleted. And considering the ones that were left up, I can only imagine what was said in the ones that were deleted, because there's a lot of shade thrown on Luke for this. Or rightfully so. I mean, again, abusing your position of authority within a company to further yourself is not generally seen as a good thing in the larger community.
I got to thank you guys, because although it's my inclination to spend more time talking about positive, constructive, and fun things going on in gaming, that's just me. What you are gifting me with is I'm catching myself vaping more, because I feel like I'm outside smoking at a game convention right now, just listening to all the stuff going on that's got fuck all to do with me personally. But here's the thing, Jim. We approach it from
position of hilarity because we're not invested in these. We're on the outside throwing tomatoes and laughing and pointing because we're
fair enough.
So we're not we don't mean to cause your blood pressure to go up or anything. But this is more.
No. It's not that. I'm just like, okay, I just suddenly occurred to me. This is just like being at North Texas Con.
Yeah, you get all the inside info.
Yeah,
you get all the inside scoops, but. No, I know that it sounds like we do focus on the negative, but we laugh about it. We're laughing about it.
I am no saint because that's a 7.5-hour drive between Cincinnati and Lake Geneva with me and Tim in a car, and people are constantly like,
saint.
"Oh, that conversation must be great. You should record it." Well, I would never work in the industry again.
Is it just the conversation? Fuck you, Tim. Fuck you, Jim. No, fuck you, Tim. No, fuck you, Jim. Is that the conversation about the last 2 hours, or does it get boring?
That's a different thing. But my game used to be how early in the 7.5-hour trip could I get a fuck you, Jim out of Tim. And when I got it in the living room in front of his wife before we left, I called the game. Okay, all right. I'm never going to beat that.
You won. Yeah, you won. Yeah, you won forever. Wow.
No, but I just mean, freewheeling opinions about everybody and everything.
Well, Zach and I, when we drive, we've driven up to Gen Con and Game Hall.
I told you what I did. I'll say this. I told you what I did when hour after hour after hour, finally the conversation starts to spin down, and I'll just go, Dave Arneson, and off Tim runs again. Yeah, it's better than a cup of coffee.
Now, Mike,
I wish
clarify when you say Zach. You got a ton out here. You got to clarify. When
Zach
you drive
Smith.
with Zach?
No, I don't drive with Zach Smith. Zach Smith, author of I Did Porn, which is the fourth promo I've done for this book.
At least
you shared many a road trip with Zach Glazer, author of I Bought It, My Wife Hasn't Found Out Yet.
Yes, Zach Glazer. I want to take pictures of my food. Yes, that's the guy I drive with. The guy who has a camera. Usually you see a pork loin sandwich in front of you. The first thing my brain thinks is eat. The first thing Zach's brain thinks is picture. So. But no, we do the same thing.
One day, Jen is going to come home from being an airline stewardess, open up that office door, and it's just going to be a wall of machinery. She's going to go, my husband's in here somewhere. I know he is.
Well, we've called Jim during some of our talks, Zach and I. So Zach knows we do the same thing. We'll be in the car and we'll start talking. Go, we would be fired from the industry if we talked about this out loud. We're like 30 minutes of the trip. We're already talking about stuff that can never leave that car ever under any circumstances. We're like, well, maybe we should pay to have access. We should do a live stream on the road. Cause I think somebody told us that much. Why don't you do a live stream on the road? We're like, no. Although we do live streams on the road, but we carefully edit those live streams. We self-edit those live streams.
You self-censor. You self-censor
ourselves. Yes. But yes, the same thing. So we know how those trips get. Look, you got to talk about something during the trip, right? You got to go somewhere. But so when you take Tim on the Dave Arneson train, it gets derailed really quickly, or does it? That
was one trip's fuck you, Jim, because in Chicago traffic, usually that's about the time Tim is switched over and driving, and he has like Chicago traffic Tourette's. So as a distraction from that blah 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 who just cut us off.
Yeah, you keep him from getting too agitated because it takes his mind someplace else. Good job. That's smart thinking.
There you go. Yeah, he's the professional. We're the amateurs, man. But you do it well too. Listen, for Mike and I, these conversations are conversations that we often would have at gaming cons running the booth, and we start, and I'd be like, all right, so how much of this conversation can I actually put into a blog post? Because you have to I got to censor out this source and that fact. But when we talk about this stuff, there's always
sources. It's always sources we can't talk. I mean, we can tell stories a lot of times. We just can't say where we got it from.
Right.
I talk to people every day that I'm like, oh man, that's juicy, but I can't say anything about it. Dang it. Because if I did, they'd know immediately who I was talking to and talking about, and so I just can't even say anything. So I got to sit there and just stew on it until it becomes public knowledge.
And then, it's complicated. There are places where it has value outside the social media dystopia we all live in. Like Ken Whitman, we want to keep people informed about what Ken Whitman's up so he doesn't come back into our industry and,
right.
start wrecking it for everybody. Because when you do something like that on Kickstarter, like the stunts he pulled, we don't have that big a swim. We don't have that big a swimming pool, and he's just dumping gallons of barrels of pee into the pool.
Well, yeah, that's true. Well, another thing you have to remember is that it's really weird because I read an article.
I don't ever want my money back from Ken, and he got me decades ago for thousands. I don't care about that. What I care about is stay out of our industry.
Well, right. I was going to say I read an article not that long ago that basically said because we're receiving so much information on social media so quickly, things tend to go down the memory hole rather fast. And so it's always good to keep people aware of these things because people will forget very quickly, who Ken Whitman is, even though he was all over social media a while back. Well, there's been so much has happened since then that you're going to get people that pop in and say, oh, well, who's Ken Whitman?
Yeah, I'm much more comfortable talking about a case like that because he was cyclic, and when in the early internet days when it was just gamer forums and there wasn't any social media yet, he would literally do that: burn a bunch of people, take a bunch of money, then go be a Bible salesman for a few years, then come back and do it again. And with social media, that's a positive. He can't do that anymore.
Right?
Yeah, it's
never say never. It won't mean he isn't going to try, but he can't really do that anymore.
Yeah, listen, I still
and
think
that's to everyone's benefit because he's just a crook.
Yeah, I think my favorite Ken Whitman thing that was not Kickstarter related was when he was trying to sell the boots from The Walking Dead with the certificate of authenticity that was ruled not authentic by the supposed issuing company. And Ken's like, I don't know what it's for. People used to get upset with me because I'd be doing my Ken Whitless post and you got to call him Ken Whitman. People won't know who you're talking about. I go, I name him throughout the thing. He's Whitman, Ken Whitless. I even had the little comic strips with Ken. I thought they were fucking hilarious. Conman Sven. Oh God.
So has there been any fallout from the Perfect RPG cancellation brouhaha? I mean, is that pretty much it? So,
I don't get it. What happened? Why was it canceled?
Yeah, they canceled because so many of the creators, once they saw that the ad was going to be on there, they wanted out. They said, we don't want our name associated with this guy who was
fair enough,
weird stuff, and it just whole thing collapsed because it became obvious how sleazily his name was just kind of snuck in there,
right.
and it wasn't announced up front.
And backers were getting upset because some of again, a lot of the comments were deleted, but some of the comments you can still read. And by the way, if you do a search for the Perfect RPG on Kickstarter, it doesn't show up. You can't do it by search. It still exists. You'd have to search, and you can't search for Luke Crane because Luke Crane does not exist on Kickstarter. You have to search for the Burning Wheel. And when you go for the Burning Wheel, then it shows up as a canceled Kickstarter. So it's not the easiest way to find the Kickstarter page if you want to look at it yourself, but it's there.
Well, not with that. So far, Luke Crane has given no interviews or no explanation or anything about it. Just canceled and he disappeared, and that's it. Sorry, all over it. I just left a bunch of really, really upset creators who were going to get paid for this gig, and now they were working on spec, basically. Just kind of how Raggy wants everybody to work on spec for New Lamentations. They were working on spec, and they got screwed because they probably put in, I don't know, Jim, you do projects all the time. I mean, if you're going to do an adventure, you probably put in how many hours on a project, and then,
all I know is whenever I get the calculator out and work what I made back through how many hours I put in, it's not minimum wage.
Yeah. No. Oh yeah. And so, I feel bad for these guys. I feel bad for the creators they probably thought they were in for pretty good payday, to be honest. And then, and then
I get uncomfortable. I mean, sometimes I have to have art up front to put into the Kickstarter to promote it. And when I'm able to, almost always pay up front, but sometimes I can't. And I feel bad even for asking, can you do this art now? And, 7 weeks from now, I'll pay you. That makes me uncomfortable.
Oh, and I
always pay. So it's not like there's a problem. It's not how I want to do things.
Well, we should get Jim's opinion on the Raggy thing because that would directly
I've interviewed him, so I at least know him.
Well, he I don't know if you saw his latest.
I felt bad for him because the COVID pandemic just
it wiped him out.
He could not afford. He was not structured to be able to not do cons.
No, well, not only that, him losing Zach. Zach was his golden fleece that kept
I've got quite a few of the books because I'm not. I'm all about First Amendment and free speech. So, there's a book called Vaginas and Magic. I couldn't wait to get to Free RPG Day and get that, and I bought books too. But and I'm capable of reading and going, oh, I see what you did with the magic system here. That's really cool. I'm not going to ever run it as written because it's not that part's not to my personal taste. But
he just had a video where he basically wants to make a comeback. And he's asking for writers and artists to work on spec with him to create a new Lamentations of the Flame Princess company. And Eric and I just were like, that's asking a lot of your artists to work on royalties only, and your artists especially, not just your writers to work on royalties, and your artists to like, hey, look, we'll pay you for the art when we get this gig done.
We'll gladly pay you Tuesday for an RPG today.
Yeah, I just think that's tough.
Well, I'll say this for him: I've never heard of him stiffing anybody.
He has it.
That doesn't mean he's smart enough to keep to not be forced to stiff people.
Well, here's the thing. Last summer, the Finnish government was coming for their money. The business loans he took out were coming due. He had to raise, I think it was just about $100K US with major sales. So he offered major sales of his stuff and basically put the word out. I need help. I need buyers. And you know what? He got out of he paid off the debt that was coming due. I don't know if he paid off all the debt, but the debt that was coming due got paid off. But if you looked at that video, and James, I don't think I don't know the way I can put it. He looked like shit. He put on, and he said it. He put on a lot of weight.
I mean, that's a bad year when your whole company goes.
Yeah.
In the North, we don't. In the South, I don't know what you think they say, but in the North, we just say when things go south.
When things go south, and
that's good enough.
Once you're already south, how much farther south can you
Once
go?
you're south, maybe they do something.
I mean, this year, hell froze over in Texas this year, so
pretty much.
Well, the parts of it I could speak to is just because I've started Mudpuppy Games back up again, and on the scales, nowhere near. What's the company called? It's not Lamentations.
It's Lamentations.
Okay,
right. Lamentations of the Flame.
So it's apples to oranges in terms of scale, but he's essentially just starting to start over, and bootstrapping a game company with no capital is crazy. You should never even try it, and bunches of us do.
Well, and John Miller's pointing out something that I pointed out on the blog side when I was talking about this. James has his own website. He has an American distributor for his print products. He has his own web store for PDF, and obviously he ships to the UK and the rest of Europe from.
And none of that's easy. Even before the pandemic, none of that was easy.
It got a bit more insane. But let's be honest, James is not selling any print stuff through drive-through. He's selling only the PDFs. And I personally, and I'm not saying this is going to be like a long-term solution, because I don't think it is a long-term solution. But Zach and Raggy, hate to say it, it's a symbiotic relationship. They need each other right now. And if James is going to keep Lamentations running now, I'm somebody who backed for the Ref book, which he doesn't even talk about anymore. This thing is already years late on Indiegogo. And the date he gave was the, I'm making a date 3 years in the future because it'll never fucking take that long. But I'm giving my finger to everybody who thinks things will be late. And he's fucking years late. I don't expect to see that coming out because he doesn't even discuss it right now. But I think that Zach and James maybe together could do something. I don't think they need. I don't think them working together will lose James any more sales or any more of his fans or consumer base that he hasn't already lost because he had James. If he didn't lose people when he had a customer relations individual who insisted that Lamentations of the Flame Princess was not OSR and was not an OSR game, if that didn't lose him fans, and if having Zach attached to him prior didn't lose him fans, bringing Zach back will not lose any.
I call bullshit. I call bullshit, sir. I mean, I haven't read every single thing James Raggie's published or even seen it all. But even if Zach Smith was somehow 50% of his creative writing output, publishing output, there are other writers out there. I mean, the planet's lousy with good writers that could write what James needs written the way James wants it written.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but I don't think they Zach still has that clout, that name recognition that others are not going to have.
Gosh.
Again,
well, if he hasn't already made a move like that, that kind of tells you where he's at on bringing Zach back.
Yeah, that's true. Well, he did complain about the fact that he basically lost his best friend and isn't able to talk with him, and he doesn't name Zach in this one. He named Zach in earlier on when the shit was going on, but he did kind of bring Zach back because Zach started making appearances in Raggie's Lamentations Facebook group a couple months ago. So who knows? Maybe rehabilitation is in the future.
Well, good luck to him, because I don't like to see that, no matter who the company is, where a whole company just goes down. Because we watched the pandemic, and all the publishers lost income by not being able to attend physical conventions to the extent that they started doing their own competing virtual conventions just to try and keep a toehold.
I think the thing that Eric and I think, though, is I think he needs a better plan, because just asking a lot of people like, look, I want to start my company over. Who wants to take a chance with me? I'm not going to be able to pay you, but we're going to make great things happen. There's
a lot of this I can speak to now that I couldn't have spoken to just a few years ago. It's different when you're in the big chair and it's your company. Like okay, just fanzines and Kickstarter projects. There's a huge difference between people that are just doing it to get their stuff out there, and if they just make a little money or break even, it's a success.
Right.
That's different from this is a business, and I'm going to pay everybody, and I'm going to take my fair share, and pay a portion of my bills with it, or all of my bills later. Whatever. That comes with so much that if you haven't, I don't know how to say what I want to say. You've got to sit in that chair before you understand.
Yep. Okay, so
one thing that happens when you bootstrap a game company with no operating capital is you can't screw up, not once, not ever.
Or you have no margin of error.
Yeah.
And as
if you pull shenanigans at a game convention, or you deliver a book a year late, you're done.
Right. It's all on you. So
back to delivering pizzas for a living.
So Mike, Skeeter made a good point. And
oh God, what?
When Zach is too slow to carry a company.
That's true.
He's working quality, but slow.
Here's what Zach gives you, though, and this is why I think Raggy misses him. He wins Ennies, he wins awards, he gives you name recognition. People come for the Zach, they buy other things while they're there for the Zach. They come for the Vornheim and the Red and Pleasant Land and the whatever, and then when they're there, they see other things they want to buy too. I think that's what he misses. He misses. He's the masthead of the company. I mean, look. I mean, it's like, I don't know, DC Comics and Superman. For years, Superman was the worst selling comic at DC, and then I can't remember the writer who told the story. Well, it came in and said, "Yeah, John Byrne. How did you know that? You're fucking awesome." John Byrne came in and said, "Why is Superman, your flagship title, the worst selling comic at your
why
company?
Does it suck?"
Yeah, and so that's when Byrne came in and redid it. I think it was 86 or so. He came and redid the whole thing because it was the worst selling comic. And he just goes, "This makes no sense. This should be the best comic at your company." And I think you got the kind of little Zach there too. I mean, Zach's the masthead. He's just there. And so they could say, "Oh, well, who do you employ?" That's, "Oh, we have Zach Smith and he won 3 Ennies last year. He won this award. He won this and that." Okay.
Yeah, but that's like saying, okay, we're Marvel Studios and we can't employ Josh Whedon anymore. Does Marvel Studios stop because of that? No. if they were somehow in a position where that did affect their business model and their bottom line, that's on them.
Sure. But see, but that's almost different too, because Marvel Studios doesn't need weed. I mean, they really don't. I mean, they can have anybody at this point. They become the 800-pound gorilla. They can pick and choose anybody they want to work with them.
Well, this is what but that's part of what I'm talking about. When you start running an indie game company for profit, you've got to get your creator hat off and get your business hat on and know which one you're wearing when.
No, you're absolutely correct, Jim. And yes, and you know better than most people too. That's absolutely true. But what's interesting though is, like, I look at you, like, and Skeeter's on the comments too. But
I'm not at Goodman Games anymore, and they're still pumping out MCC stuff like crazy. You know, I wasn't, and I created the game, so you know, a good businessman just goes, okay, well, I've got this product line, it's selling, let's keep it selling. Who do I got to hire? And they go out and hire them.
But you're one man company, right? I mean, it's you. This, and like Skeeter's SGP is a one man company, and so that's got to be, like you said, that's a lot different. You're everything, right? I mean, you've got to make sure everything's right. You can't have any. Almost.
I made my first scaling up move in hiring a professional copy editor, so that my copy doesn't suck. I'm fair to middling copy editor myself, but I can't. Not on stuff I write, not on stuff I lay out, not at 10 o'clock at night when I get to it.
That's smart. More people should think about spending money on that. I know for a long time.
Yeah. One man operation, essentially. You're right.
Yeah. But I mean, it's, and the thing about what Raggy does is it's not a one man operation. I mean, he's there. He's kind of the figurehead, but the writing is done by just a various cast of characters. I mean, really, whoever brings him a great idea that he thinks would fit in with, Lamentations style, and he employs there. So it's a lot different, I think, what he's doing than what you're doing. What you're doing is really great, because you're the buck stops there, right? I mean, that's it.
Right.
It's you. I mean, you're it.
But I'm as good a writer now as I was 8 years ago. So how did I get into Goodman Games to start with? I knocked on the door a bunch and waited until I saw a Metamorphosis Alpha Kickstarter go one stretch goal adventure further than I knew Joe had writings for, and pitched him one. Somebody out there now, lots of somebody's, could be listening to this and say, okay, this is my shot, and go start hitting James Raggy up with Lamentations of the Princess adventures or whatever he needs. Mm-hmm. There's more writers out there than goddamn Zach Smith. There, see, I cussed. Are you happy now?
Yeah. Woo, woo. There we go. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Gosh, Skeeter must be bored tonight. One person's company sees some great work come out recently. That's true. Another one, Greg Gillespie, he's announced his new Kickstarter will be out pretty soon. I love Greg's stuff. We're running Highfell, my group. We're in session 16 or 17, and Greg puts out good stuff, but it's a lot of work. I mean, and you know that too, Jim. It's obviously a lot of work for you, because it's not just, you can't just say, okay, I'm just going to do this, and then you do that, and you do this, and you do that, because that's what we do at Frog God, right? Because Frog God, one person does this, one person does it with this, and it all comes together, and then when it all comes together, you bitch about who didn't do whatever and fix it.
No, you've got to face up to things like, okay, you're a BFA who now needs an MBA degree, so let's bust out Excel and a spreadsheet and figure out the profit loss on this Kickstarter. What can you afford to pay the artists? What can you afford to pay the writers? How much money do you want to end up at the end?
Interesting. So because you can't afford to make mistakes in that, can you? Otherwise, you're working for free. If you screw up on the shipping or the artwork.
Well, it's like chess. You know you're going to make a bad move, so you've got to plan ahead for that too. So you got a cushion. I just did it. I'll wrap myself out. I'm halfway through shipping my books, and I ran through the last of my rigid mailers from the last time I ordered. Well, weeks ago I reordered, and I just went to Amazon and clicked the buy again button and ordered me 500 more rigid flat craft mailers. Well, Amazon decided that even though I hit the just reorder button, I needed 7x9 instead of 11.5x9, and I didn't bother to open them when they showed up. So on Monday I went, crap, I'm out of mailers. And had to suck it up and buy 500 more mailers, but also pay to have them overnighted.
Oh, yeah.
Cost of doing business.
Well, maybe you
Right.
can still use those. You might be able to still use the other mailers if you next project maybe. But yeah, you're right. Yeah, then you're out. It's unexpected expense, right?
Yeah, I mean, so like take Frog God Games. Since I was a partner there, I've seen behind some of those curtains. You know, when it's time for a spreadsheet, there's no accountant to do it. I got to do it.
Yep.
When it's
Well,
time.
that's the problem with most failed Kickstarters too. Is that it's. I mean, you don't see it happen as much as it used to when you had stuff like the center stage miniature debacle and things. But yeah, every once in a while somebody just messes something up and doesn't. And it mostly always happens shipping. Shipping's where it almost always happens. The problem is shipping is so unstable nowadays. It's not like it used to be where okay, well, shipping's the same year after year. It changes every single year, sometimes twice in a year, and you've really got to keep up on your shipping info, otherwise you can get really screwed on that.
Well, it occurs at a smaller level if you're just a freelancer as a writer or an artist. But there's a point in that where if you want to make money, you've got to start being your own business manager, your own agent. So that's a bunch of hats you have to put on. And then when you're doing Kickstarters and deciding it's a good idea to do a quarterly publication, the beast that never sleeps, you've got to take it on. And what I will say about creatives is it's easier to teach a creative it's easier for a creative to learn business chops than it is for a business person to learn creative chops.
That's absolutely correct.
Thank God for that part.
Good insight, Jim. That's seriously, that's
it's
good.
endemic. Every creator I know, and myself included, have struggled with it at some point and either mastered it or learned it good enough or not.
Or you could be like Zach Glazer was, and you decide he's just going to lose money. It's like, I'm going to make Whisper of Venom the best box set ever, and I'm just going to lose money because obviously what I want to do is not going to be something I can do cheap enough or with enough money.
Well, how do you learn things? You learn things by screwing up and making mistakes.
Right.
So that I had mine. That was Metamorphosis Alpha 4th edition, and
which, by the way, was a great edition. I love Metamorphosis Alpha 4th edition.
Yeah, but pro tip for the kids at home: don't order 5,000 books printed in China unless you really mean it. Because I could still hook you up with copies.
It's a very good edition, by the way.
But thank you.
It is a very good edition.
But Zach, if Zach were in some position or world where he decided to do it a second time, he wouldn't do it the same way.
No, he did it because at the time he wanted to do it. I can speak for Zach because I can. He wanted to.
He's not here. So.
He wanted to put out a box set. That's what his dream was. Like you're a little kid, and you want to draw Spider-Man or something for.
And you know what? He not only delivered on time, but it was an artisanal quality box set I've never quality I've never seen before or after. And I defy you to go find even just a board game with that fit and finish. He just didn't make money.
No. But I mean, he didn't want to. I mean, if it's different. If you don't care about it, great. But unfortunately, most of us have to pay bills. We can't afford to. Oh, I screwed up on shipping, and now I'm instead of being up $5,000, I'm down $2,000. Or whatever.
Yeah, I'm old. My goal is no longer to get my name out there for exposure.
Right.
Oh wait, you don't like exposure? Come on, Jim.
I got a car payment to make.
There you go.
Well, now, tell us about your Kickstarter. We're drifting that way anyway. Let us know about what you're doing.
Oh, happy to. I'm in mid shipment on Scientific Barbarian issue 2, and the Kickstarter for 3 will launch next Tuesday, so March 9th.
Oh, great. Okay, good.
And I'm in the process on social media of spreading a link where you can do the little thing and just click notify me on launch, so you can be there the second it goes. But I'll tell you, 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, March 9th. That's when it's going to launch.
So what is exactly a Scientific Barbarian, and why should we run out and buy that as soon as possible?
You're such a good interviewer.
Don't get spoiled now.
It's a post-apocalyptic role-playing magazine, which just means that my goal is to be a little bigger and better than a fanzine, but not as fancy as a magazine. So I invented magazine. 6x9 perfect bound book with a spine, go right in your game bag, and it's because I'm running it. The stats and such are extremely adaptable to Mutant Crawl Classics. Why would that be a surprise? But it's also written, so it's really for any D20 based post-apocalyptic game. And our mission that I don't think we've actually fulfilled yet is to invite the fantasy gamers in for genre mash gaming, because we're all old enough. When we started, that was baked into the Dungeon Master's Guide to start with.
Right.
You know,
Yeah, genre matching was
this
a huge
magic
part.
this magic artifact. Oh wait, this is a suit of power mech armor. I know what this is.
S3 Expedition to the Buried Peaks, exactly. Yeah, that was built into the whole game. Yes.
So and a whole team of writers and a whole team of artists that are 95% of it all anyway. And top level names. Tim Kask and Jim Ward have been contributing to it. Jolly Blackburn is allowing me to run post-apocalyptic themed nights at dinner table in it. Naturally, because I'm a comic book artist, I go straight to the comics. Dan Smith doing a new strip that's got game maps from the comic adventure. And Travis Hansen doing a strip called Out into the Wastelands, the life of the party guy.
Oh, yeah, Travis does great work.
I just sweet talked him into doing some illos that will be that are an issue. He's got some illos in issue too that he just helped bail me out when another artist had a problem. But I've talked him into being one of the illustrators and just top notch art. And I mean, you've at least seen it, right, Mike?
Mm-hmm.
I almost forgot I was supposed to be here tonight until the web store went, Eric Tenkar just ordered Scientific Barbarian #1. I'm like, oh, what a sweetheart.
Yeah, speaking of which, so can we still get 1 and 2? Are we able to order those?
I should talk about that. Through the web store, you can get everything we've published that's out, and 2 will be available once I complete backer shipments, and that'll just be in a week or 2.
Because although I backed Check This Artifact and Fight This Mutant, I do not think I backed either of your Scientific Barbarians. I'm very sorry, Jim, but I do want them. I still want them.
Here's the Mudpuppy marketing spiel. You can get Scientific Barbarian #1 2 ways. You could just go to the web store and pay for it, and our shipping department will send it right out to you. It's in my living room over there, and or you can wait until the Kickstarter next week, and the Kickstarter has add-ons that are all the prior publications. So you can catch up that way at a backer-only price.
That is a great idea. I assume that's exactly what I'm going to do. Unlike Eric, I will actually back your latest Kickstarter because apparently he could have done it too, and he didn't do that. So he's
obviously I didn't. That's why I bought the first issue.
Oh, okay.
I have no feelings to hurt, especially in the middle of Zine Quest. My God, there's so much good content from so many people.
I think Eric,
you guys have got wives. You got to worry about wife aggro at some point.
Oh, listen, I've handled. I got to look behind me before I say this. I actually handled that pretty well.
I only have to worry about ex-wife aggro, and none of them care what I'm doing now.
No. Actually, I had budgeted $250 for Zine Quest, and I blew that in like the first 5 days, and then I started, and then I started interviewing everybody. So, because I threw out the hey, if you have a zine, you want a little coverage. I'll do a live stream with you. I figured maybe 6-7 people would want it done in the course of a month. I had 14 lined up in the first 12 days. I was like, oh my God. But I think I wound up backing 27, 28. So
jeez. Well, let me take a second to walk the walk that I've been talking. I hesitate to say that it's open submissions. It's more like vetted open submissions. But if I've got a team and the team goes from issue to issue with, 3 won't have a Levi Combs article in it. And you know why? Because he's busy putting out 5 zines this month and 6 more the next month or whatever. That's the way it seems. So, but Ian McParty is going to be in 3 so I brought him in new. If you're out there listening and post-apocalyptic gaming is your jam, hit me up, pitch me ideas.
Well, apparently Skeeter Green says
I have a system where I try and do 2 things for the contributors. I try and use vetted industry writers and artists, and every product bring in some new people. And nice. It's their first thing, and one of those is one of my best artists now, Ala Fedorova. I think I was the first person to publish her work, and I'm not taking credit for her work, but that's now turned into a whole thing where everybody loves her and everybody uses her. Go team OSR, right?
Well, this dude named Skeeter Greens wants to know if you're accepting articles. I would stay away from this guy. I know him. Sketchy.
Ask Skeeter Green where his article is for number 3 because I need it now.
Skeeter, you're being called out.
So he's accepting articles that you've already been commissioned to write.
Oh, dude.
So there you go. Now somebody, Dandelion Games brought up something, and I have to say I did not see it, but I heard about it. since we're talking about MCC, DCC, Spawn of Cyclops Con had a virtual dealer room, and I heard that it was as close to having that real dealer room feel as anything. Apparently, the interface, which I actually, oh god, I wish that
Yeah, I wish I checked that out. That sounds cool.
The interface is called Gather, and apparently, what it is that you look a little bit like a character from Zelda as you're walking through from like room to room. But when you go to the dealer room or you go to a dealer's table, poof, it opens up and you got a person to interact with, a live video, and you interact back and forth. So I was told that, people are randomly, like, you're walking through a hallway and there's somebody else walking through it and you can bump into each other, and then the video opens up and you can start talking.
Ooh,
that sounds so cool.
That's
God
interesting.
damn it. I was busy shipping books and being at one of the artist panels in CyclopsCon. I didn't even pay the least bit of attention to dealer room.
Yeah, so I'm like, might have to. And you can apparently, there's a free version of Gather if you're only going to have 25 people involved in it at one time. I might have to check it out and play around with it and see if we can set up a virtual tavern one day. Might be interesting, but yeah, no, I could see this really becoming something future. Avatar's castle map, hidden rooms, hidden treasures can interact through camera and video as they meet. That really, if you're going to replicate conventions, because I know for myself, I go to conventions to socialize, even with people like Skeeter. I like to see people that I don't normally get a chance to see. Like Jim, I haven't seen you since who the fuck knows how long.
I'm so massively introverted that, and daily virtual team meetings just drive me insane. But thank you for this, because I forget how much I miss my tribe's faces until I'm in one of these things. Like you just said, I haven't seen you in forever in person.
Right.
Since a year ago, 2 total cons ago.
Yeah. Shit.
But I am here to predict the future that's related to what you were just talking about, because the having a technology startup background, all this cool technology that's being invented and pioneered now for these virtual cons is not going to go away when the pandemic's over and we can all game in person again.
Right.
And it's like people, will it replace in-person cons? No.
No.
VCRs didn't replace movie cinemas. Everybody always thinks that what's going to happen is it'll be a hybrid model, because think it all the way through. Gary Con it will make sense in some places and not others, but Gary Con is a perfect example of a con that its attendance is topped out for its venue, and its venue has to stay in Lake Geneva, Wisconsin.
Yeah.
So I can completely see Gary Con jumping on, okay, there's in-person Gary Con, and simultaneous to that, there's virtual Gary Con where you can be in England or Europe or Australia or Africa or wherever you want to be, and get a Gary Con experience. That's where this is going to end up, where there'll be like still virtual dealer rooms and the real dealer room.
Sure.
Right.
That's my Nostradamus forecast.
Even when we're talking with the powers that be behind TotalCon, even they were saying, like, in the future they could see, and they used Tim as an example. Tim's getting older. But what if Tim could appear on a big screen TV running the game with an interactive camera? So he's virtually appearing, but you have
a telepresence setup would be awesome.
So it might be something in the future. So a lot of this stuff, I really think for all the shit that COVID has caused in society, I think it's along with those things that COVID hasn't killed society, but it certainly forced it to evolve and change in different ways. Telecommuting, Rach has been. She pointed out to me. She goes, it's been exactly. I think it's been exactly a year since I started working from home and doing all her social work by phone or by iPad or whatever. So I mean, it's just, even when the world reopens, a lot of companies are going to say, "Hey, we might do a hybrid. Maybe we'll bring everybody back to the office. Maybe some of our clients prefer to do stuff from home and not have to travel miles to get to their session when they can do it from home." It's just game conventions too. there's people that are going to want that experience that can't travel for one reason or the other.
And I mean, Eric and I have talked about this a lot. I'm one of those people that I don't really care about gaming unless it's in person. Well, I don't really care about conventions unless they're in person. I'm not an online convention guy. I don't think there's anything wrong with those people, and it's great they're able to do that. I think some people have had a great year because they've been able to be in so many conventions last year they would never been able to do. I'm just not one of those guys because I'm like Eric.
Right.
I enjoy the talking, the getting together afterwards to go get something to eat. The like you said, Jim, hanging around the smoking area and chilling with people. I love that. I love walking the dealer room, checking all the stuff out, and that's so many things that aren't necessarily game related. Now, if you just like to play games, yeah, online's great. I mean, you've had a convention almost every year.
Like everything, it'll vary by the individual's inclination. Mm-hmm. I'm still going to in-person cons. I can't wait. I think Autumn Revel or Gamehole Con is probably the first viable target. And can you imagine the bust out excitement those cons are going to be?
Alex is pretty excited. Alex announced that they're thinking about Gamehole, or that they're pretty seriously considering at this point because it's October.
It's looking good.
We're doing North Texas. For those that don't know, we're doing North Texas definitely in June. We're pretty optimistic. Every day we get more people signed up that have had their second shot, and so without even really asking people to say, look, it's great if you really need to be vaccinated to come. Pretty much everybody. I talked to Dennis the other day. He's coming, and he, of course, obviously, he's an older man and health issues, and he didn't want to come because his wife also has issues. He didn't want to get sick and bring that back to her. But now he's had his second dose and he's ready to roll. And so I think that's if we can do that by June, I think definitely you're talking in the summer, you're going to be even more covered than you are now. I think I remember reading that at this point, Texas is only 7% vaccinated, and even with only 7%, it seems like everybody I know has had both shots. My Robert's had both his shots. Of the gaming group, the guys I game with, they've all had both their shots. Of course, they all work in the medical industry, so it's okay. So I'm the only one. I'm the one left out with no shots yet. But I think by June we're going to be looking really good, and I think by the fall we'll be looking excellent. And I was telling Eric, I've done a lot of reading on the vaccine because I'm a diabetic. I have issues. I just like to know these things. I want to be safe, and the vaccine is it's even better than their wildest dreams. And so they are very optimistic that you're going to be 95% protected. Now, what I think is interesting is, and somebody asked this on the thread that Alex Kamer had earlier, are you going to make people show their, I guess, vaccination papers before they come in? And he told whoever asked, we're talking about that. We're not sure yet. That's going to be an interesting dilemma for some people to. Where do you guys stand on that? I mean, if you had a convention, let's say you have 1,000 people, let's say 1,500.
I tell you where I stand on it. You want me to just badmouth my own tribe? I'm more than willing to do it. Where I stand on this is I have nothing but an unending 5-mile deep well of empathy for everybody who runs a game convention, because the business challenges, you can't just not have a convention, and you have to make money to fund the future year.
Sure.
And virtual cons are not a replacement. And then there's all this kind of stuff you're talking about. And no matter who you are, you will sit with your consiglieres and make the best decision you can, knowing that a bunch of over-entitled gamers who have a conniption if your book costs more than a trip through Taco Bell drive-through are going to attack you for it. It's a thankless, an often thankless task. So,
Well, look, Doug and I both have comorbidities out the ass. I mean, he's going through chemo. He has been for 3 years. I've got all my issues, but and so we want to be
probably
safe.
It's sensible to have people show you the cards, but
right.
All Luke did a month or so ago was say we're going to vet people for virtual gear. See, I did it. The social media people got me.
You said the vet word. Oh my God!
I cannot apologize enough. All he said is we're just going to make sure everybody that comes into Discord is who they say they are, because we had to kick somebody out, and it started a whole ordeal that was just needless and pointless. And it's just so easy to sit in the trenches and backseat quarterback
Sure.
people who run game
Yeah.
conventions.
Yeah,
I was on the team at GaryCon for years.
Yeah, you want to have all the fun. You want to have all the fun, but you don't want all the any of the responsibility. So, yeah, no, I know exactly what you're telling. I mean, then Doug and I have had to talk about this too because we're 99% sure we're gonna. Doug and I will have both our shots by then. I mean, we're in the 1B group, which is way up top to get in the shot. But that doesn't mean that everybody's going to come to our con will probably be vaccinated by then. So we're going to have to sit there and think: Do we allow people without vaccinations to come to the con? Because the people we're talking to now are all saying, "Hey, yeah, man, I've had my second shot. I'm on my way. I'm going to be coming there." That's not going to be everybody because by June you can't expect everybody to be vaccinated, especially if you're a healthy. Let's say you're a healthy 25-year-old. You're probably not on the list. You're not 1A or 1B. You're down.
Or you've got kids who are at the bottom of the list.
There you go. Yeah. So
but here now, David is saying, and I did see this briefly when I wasn't really paying attention to the news. But the Biden administration is saying that will have enough vaccines to have all adults vaccinated by. I actually heard before the summer. So David's saying May. I was assuming that meant by the end of June.
All due respect to Biden and the administration, I don't see how it's going to happen. They can have all the vaccines, but they've got to get the shots in people, and there's just not enough health workers and not enough time of the day to go around. They have in Texas we have a racetrack.
My county in Ohio has inoculated 25,000 people so far. There are many more than 25,000 people living in my county.
We have a racetrack. I mean, professional racetrack in Denton County. They have made this so easy to do that you don't have to get out of your car. They have all these rows there. You go through the racetrack, car by car. They give you the shot in your arm. You have to wait 15 minutes and you're allowed to drive off. It takes 25 minutes. I mean, it's so efficient you wouldn't believe it. Even with that level of efficiency, they're saying that they're only going to have maybe 10% of the county done by the end of the month. I mean, it's the most efficient thing you could ever imagine. Just rows and rows of cars, not even get out of your car, just sticking you there. It's still going to take a while. So like I said,
please do me a favor. When you do finally get your vaccination, be sure and get on Facebook and whine about how much it hurts, exactly like every other flu shot you ever got in your life. I need to know that.
How much I'm going to be knocked on my ass off. My mom had her second.
This is important to my daily mental health. I need to hear all about it.
My mom's 78. She had her second shot. It didn't do anything. So I don't know. Every person's different, I mean, who knows? But yeah, so yeah, it's a question to be asked. And I just don't think every adult's, I don't see any path for millions of adults to be vaccinated by May. But I think most of the people in our demographic, that's a good possibility. I mean, most of the demographic, we're talking, 50 or older, probably comorbidities, aka your average gamer is going to probably be vaccinated. So, that's a tough one. And like I said, Doug and I have struggled with it because we're like, we don't like last year we decided to have the con. We looked at all the pros and cons and we told people to stay at home. We said, look, we're going to have a game day. We recommend you don't come from out of town. We recommend if you're older, we told all our special guests don't come. And we had maybe, 80 people there, but because so few people came, we were able to social distance like you wouldn't believe. Because imagine a whole hotel with 80 people, not even all at the same time. So
right.
We were able to.
Can I make a suggestion? When this is all over, can you still have a social distancing policy, especially on Saturday and Sunday?
Well, this is
when people start to stink. Yeah,
Eric and I talk about this a lot about how this is going to change the whole. Just how we look at conventions, and we've talked a lot about when is Gen Con going to get back to being Gen Con? Are they ever going to be able to have 65,000 people again? Because I don't see the
Comic-Con just canceled, and big surprise, but
yeah. Well, Comic-Con is they're over 100,000 people though, and I'll tell you one other thing, Jim, is Comic-Con.
Well, they're like 300,000, but that's still Gen Con was up around 70, 75. That's too many people.
I don't think Gen Con. See, Gen Con is going to have to figure out a way to make it work, but not with 70,000 people. Because there's just people that just aren't going to show up for big, giant gangbang conventions anymore. They're just not. They're just going to say, "Look, Dragon Con looks great, but you know what? I'm 60 years old. There's a billion people there. I don't want to go anymore." And I think you're going to see that with Gen Con also. people are just going to say, I just don't want the mess. And like you were talking about earlier, Jim, with Gary Con, we talk about this a lot. We went to the last Gary Con in 2019, and it was uncomfortably crowded. I mean, it was jam packed. And I know Luke has committed to having less people in the future. And so, I mean, but
I don't want to speak for Luke, but I think the plan is just the release valve of Autumn and Spring Revels. Like Autumn Revel this year, you can attend in person, and it will be like a Gary Con used to be 8 years ago. It's going to be a few hundred people, and you and Jim Scatch can go, yeah, this is how it used to be.
But so Gary Con, I mean, I don't think right now I would feel safe about going to Gary Con if we were going to have 3,000 people crammed into Geneva. No, I wouldn't at all. Now, 2 years from now, 2,000 people. Yeah, I mean, I could think about that. Everybody's been has had their vaccines. Sure, let's give it a shot. But I don't. Is it just because we're old or age? I don't want to be crammed in like sardines anymore. I just don't want to do those kind of conventions.
I mean, there's two things here, and one of them is, okay, you and me, we're the same age, so there's our personal concerns. But the thing I try and remind myself constantly is it's not all about me.
Yeah.
It's like the Grand Canyon walls. There's a whole new layers of strata, new generations coming in. That's what I think about every time somebody gets on their high horse about, how much focus at Gary Con is on Adventures League and Pathfinder Society. It's their game now. Let them have their fun. Yeah. It doesn't affect me. I'm still in the corner in my room running what I want to run.
Well, I mean, 1982, I was in a mosh pit at a Clash concert in Dallas, and would I do that now? Fuck no. I mean, that's nuts. I mean, that's for young, like you said.
That part you're talking about. Me personally, people can stay 6 feet away from me from now until the heat death of the universe, and I'll be A-okay.
Yes, I think I'm sliding that way. I don't mind crowd. I mean, my wife and I don't go to concerts anymore just because I don't like the crowd. I don't like the whole thing that I loved 30 years ago. The whole people smashed in there, the music, everybody yelling, drunk. I don't want to do that anymore. And so you're right. I mean, we're aging out of the whole process, right? I mean, at the point where we're going to be going to the Legends of Gaming room, and we'll just stay there the whole time and just talk with all the other old farts about how it was in the old days.
It's not about us being in the sunset of our gaming careers. It's just I have to remind myself every once in a while. It's not all about me, man. Like that wheelchair book 5e book they put out, and everybody's got upset about. Why do I even care?
Well, yeah, and Eric and I talk about that a lot too.
Go have fun. Doesn't change my Mutant Crawl Classics campaign I'm playing in with Skeeter Green. With two 10-year-olds, we're having fun doing it our way.
So Skeeter's one of them? Never mind. Sorry, Skeet. I just had to throw that in there.
Skeeter's one of the 10-year-olds.
Yes, it was low-hanging. Yeah, it was low-hanging fruit. I just had to take the swing at it.
See, here comes the threats. I'm going to get within 6 feet of Mike. See, these are the threats. This is what starts with
I haven't played in a campaign in a long time as a player, and Skeeter's running one right now. And it's me and Ian's 10-year-old daughter and Rocky's 10-year-old son. We're one side of the party because we're all thinking the same. Just kill the monsters and take their stuff. And then Ian and Rocky, are in there as wiser heads.
Well, yeah, because y'all are children. Yes, exactly. you identify with the 10-year-olds, exactly. Yes, of course. That makes perfect sense, actually.
Yeah,
when you think about it.
Will there be RPGs in the rec rooms or the retirement homes when we get there? I'll be honest with you. When I used to go to the retirement home where my mother's cousin is or was now it went from assisted living. Now he's in a nursing home. But I used to go there and go, you know what? I could actually see myself running. Because some of these retirees had a lot of spunk and energy. I was like, I could see myself running RPGs if they knew what an RPG was for them. But I can't see myself instructing people in their 70s and 80s on what an RPG is. So maybe for our generation.
Dude, I'm here to tell you. Yeah. When I get there to the rest home, if there's not RPGs going on, I'll start it. But the dream is somebody who knows what they're doing, like Alyssa Faden hits the lotto. And then we'll all go to the same retirement home, and it'll be a castle up on a mountain.
There you go.
Jim, my wife and I are retiring to South Padre on the beach that head that way. We'll figure it out. We'll get a big rec center or something down there, and we will. You can live on the beach, just be a hobo bum, just stay on the beach.
I hate to be a bastard, but those people that post online, I can't find a group. Well, start one. Damn it.
Well, get online now. You can get online.
This is your call to adventure too, That's
the great part about online, though. You can find a game any day, any night nowadays. I mean, it's not like it used to be where you had to wait for 5 Yahoos to all have the same night off from McDonald's and, working at the plant shed. Now you just all go, hey, what time can everybody get online? Boom, you're online. There's a game. So that is one great thing that online gaming has brought us. And then you got one guy from Michigan, one guy from Ohio, the other guys from Australia. I mean, yeah, it's perfect. I mean, online gaming.
You and I are the same age, and Bill Webb's about 10 years younger than us. But imagine us all in the same rest home. Will gaming with Bill at age 70 really be that different than now? I mean, he'll still be in like boxers and a robe.
He might not be walking Crocs on. As long as he has the boxers, I'll be happy. I mean, he has to have the boxers on. Yes.
The difference will be the rest of us will be in boxers and robes. It won't just be Bill. There'll be the rest of us.
I'll be in a Speedo and whatever.
No. We've already seen your brother in a Speedo. We don't need to see you.
Come on, man.
That literally gave me the shivers. You can't do that to an artist because every time you bring your brother up, the visual memory with perfect clarity.
I will say that this year, so he goes, Mike, I've got a great idea for the con coming back this year about the midnight auction. I was like, I don't even want to hear it.
Just put a leotard on underneath the Speedos.
I don't want to hear it. Just no. It's got to be said because he was so excited that it was something really that I didn't want to know.
It can't be good. It can't be good.
No. It's like I don't want to know. He goes, "Oh, I'll just surprise you guys. I'll just surprise everybody." I'm like, no surprises. No surprises.
I'm still scarred, and I mean that in the nicest way.
He wore the. By the way, he wore the Speedo last year. Luckily, last year's auction was not viewed by very many. So thank God we had the. You dodged that bullet, so he thought that would be fun to pop on.
You can tell him, congestive heart failure saved me from seeing that view, and I'm better for it. Okay,
you added probably what 3 to 5 years of your life, because that took
by not seeing it, yes.
Yeah, that took off way too many years. I still have nightmares, so yeah.
There's just not enough eye bleach in the world for that.
You can pull them out. I mean, I thought about it. You can just pull them out, but
you still have the memories, man.
Yeah, your mind's eye is still there. Your mind's eye is still
just like being Flash Man Boots by James Bond. I mean, and I can still see Merle's expression because Merle gets that twinkle in his eyes, and Merle is seeing it out of his right eye, and he's got that twinkle because and Frank knew nothing. Frank had no clue what was going on.
That's how you know Merle's good people because he didn't.
Yes.
He didn't immediately blow the gag.
And
say, what is that man doing with his shirt off behind Frank Manster? Why does that man behind Frank Manster have his shirt off? Oh
God!
See, that's why we miss real in-person conventions.
Yes.
So we can see older fat guys with their shirts off and their Speedos on.
There were years in North Texas cons where Mike and Liz were like, you should come to the midnight auction. You should come. And then I finally gave in and came. And I'm like, okay, I've been. I'm done now.
That was one of the best. Well, you went to one of the better ones, though. So I will say we brought our. We've really got to bring our A game this year for the return. So we brought our A game. Last one we brought our A+ game. That was the Ben Barsh Disney extravaganza. So. This year,
I've got an idea.
We've got to do something.
I just had this idea. You want a fresh in North Texas RPG Con idea?
Sure.
Here's my pitch. T-shirts that say, God damn it, let somebody else bid, loaded into a T-shirt cannon, and I will volunteer to be the person that stands behind the auctioneers at the midnight office and just takes shots at Bill and Meinhardt and everybody else.
Oh, God.
This is a midnight auction. Let other people have fun. Let somebody else bid.
Bill Webb doesn't even know he has fun because he bids and he doesn't remember what he wins the next day until he gets the bill. He's like, whoa, hold on. What's this for? Yes, you did bid on that. Yes, you bid on all that stuff, Bill Webb. You won it all, too. Luckily, Chris is usually there to pull his hand down for, we don't need another picture. We don't need another painting. We don't need another Metcalf artwork. Yes, we don't need any more.
I mean,
Yeah,
now that I
look,
think
mine-
about it, we could personalize the T-shirts and just have 3 cannons: one for Bill Webb, one for Bill Meinhardt, and one for Guppy. Sit there.
Oh God, yeah.
Oh God!
Let other
yeah.
people bid.
Oh.
By the way, my first midnight auction, Skeeter gave me a beer. He had a bucket of beer, and he gave me a beer. I didn't even know who Skeeter was at the time, and now look at me. Maybe I'm actually better for knowing Skeeter. I'm not going to tell Skeeter that.
That sounds like a long time ago. Was that in his beer drinking, raccoon fighting days?
Yes.
No, he's clean. He's clean and mean and all these days. Come on. Or 10 of us all use guys. Whose number did you? I forgot whose number you were using.
Oh my God.
Yeah, everybody had Bill. Was it Bill's number? Y'all had Bill's Webb's number. I can't remember. That was funny. Yeah. See, even the audience gets in on the fun and extravagance. We haven't even started North Texas, and we're already pimping our con. So, but yeah. So that's I'm interested to see how cons are going to go this year. I'm very, very excited about what the vaccine's doing. And if you, and like Eric always says, we're not experts or anything, get online, read some scientific stuff. You'll be actually because look, it's been doom and gloom for the last year, right? I mean, everything, not just the political landscape, but this, that, but I guarantee you, in 10 years, they're going to look back on the vaccine and say, wow, this was an amazing, absolutely amazing achievement that the scientists and the American government were able to do in a short period of time. And I think I was telling you guys earlier that they were going to be happy if the vaccine had 51% efficiency. It looks like it has 94 to 95%. So hopefully conventions will be back in our future, guys. I'm really excited about seeing everybody in person again and not having to worry about covering my mouth as I open kiss Eric or,
Oh well,
or wash my hands.
If it's not on camera, it never happened.
It works on Tim. I'm going to try it on Bad Mike. Hey, Bad Mike, Dave Arneson.
But I actually have a funny Dave Arneson story, but I don't think we have enough time. The Dave Arneson story has to do the fact that the first time I talked to Dave Arneson was Tim Kask, and he had a nickname for him that I don't think I should bring up. So.
I've heard Tim talk about Dave. That was my first time meeting him.
When I first met Tim, he was much more open with his opinions, and since Dave's passing, he's toned it down in public a lot. So yes,
you've listened to Curmudgeon and Cellar. I mean, all due proper respect shown, and
sure, but yeah, and the thing is, look, when Tim would tell me these stories, Steve Marsh backs them all up. So, and Steve Marsh is absolutely the nicest, most honest guy in gaming. He is. There is. I mean, anybody that attacks Steve Marsh has to go through me first. The man cannot tell a lie, and he knew everybody, and he's just the absolute biggest sweetheart ever. And everything Tim said about Dave, Steve Marsh backed up. So that tells me that there's reasons behind that. So without getting into details.
Hey, it worked. Look at that. We got off vaccinations.
There we go. Yeah, look.
Well,
sure did. Yep.
Well, we always like Mike said. I always close this stuff out. And since we're at the 2-hour mark, we probably should close this out. But nobody here's a medical professional. Use your common sense. All right, that's all any of us are going to ask you to do. You wouldn't. After you throw that fireball into that 10x10 room and the blowback kills half your party, I would never have thrown a fireball in a 10x10 room. I would never turn on the gas. My friend Muggsy was in the oven. You might, Travis. You might. But listen, use your common sense. If you claim you have it in game, use it in real life. It's a skill many of us neglect, and you have it. It's on your character sheet. Use it. Be safe. Be well. God bless. Roll those dice. Thank you to Jim for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Yes. Great fun as always.
For entirely selfish reasons, it was just good to catch up with you two.
I definitely. I really want to
When's your Kickstarter?
I want to hug my Jim.
Next Tuesday?
Tuesday, March 9th at 9 a.m.
Great.
Eastern Standard Time.
Very cool. Well, I'll be back in this one finally. Actually, Jim, here, I'll make a public announcement. Fucking ping me next Tuesday so I don't forget to back it. But I want to highlight it too. All right? And that goes to anybody who's a listener who has projects they're creating. I miss things because I'm only one person, and there's a fucking shit ton of you creating shit. So if you wanted to get covered, sometimes you gotta like remind me. It's not being pushy. It's not taking advantage of me. It's if Tenkar doesn't know, then he fucking doesn't know. So let me sure I know. Because then if I forget, then at least it's on me. It's not on you. All right, folks. On that note, mañana. Laters.